Thank you very much, Darren. On air pollution and the steps that we're taking, we don't see any need to revise the air quality strategy now because we believe that the measures that we are taking for local hotspots have been included since the publication of the first draft of this strategy in October 2009. And I think that when you look at the very wise decision of the Commission not to go ahead with the £300 million fine on us, I think they too have seen the steps that were taken. They're looking at the measures that London is introducing to improve air quality, and I think they've been impressed by the force of what we're doing.
Although the Commission's letter does say very clearly London's air quality plan will be in 2011 to include the short-term measures and be submitted to the
Yes, as I say, the local measures have been included since the publication of the draft in 2009. So we're confident that the dust suppressant strategies, the encouragement of walking and cycling, the zero carbon strategy, the low carbon bus, the strategies on taxi emissions, all those things we think have been impressive for the Commission, and we don't think that it will be necessary to revise the strategy.
Okay, well, let's just recap where we are, because we're 3 months into the year. Marylebone Road has already had 19 bad air days. Under the legislation, only 35 are allowed, and just 3 months into the year, we've had 19 bad air days already, quarter of the way through the year. Your own figures, your own research shows that we have thousands of premature deaths each year in London because of the poor levels of air quality. We are at serious risk of facing a £300 million fine for breaches. Do you understand the seriousness of this?
Yes, of course I do. Of course I do, Darren. And I want to thank you again for all the interest that you show in this and the way that you keep pursuing this. I mean, I think it is right. London's air quality obviously has improved over the last few decades. It is far better now than it was, say, in the 1950s or even when you and I were growing up, Darren. The air quality has been improving, but there is a long way to go. And there are particular problems, as we all know, around these exceedance areas. You mentioned the Marylebone Road. That is certainly one of them. I have to say that in the last few months, or indeed in the last few weeks, there have been particular concerns and air quality problems caused, we think, not just by London-generated emissions, but I'm afraid to say, according to the DEFRA report to the Commission, 75% of the PM10 exceedances in these hotspots occurred during big European pollution episodes. And what I mean by that is if when the wind is coming, when you've got, as it were, a westerly wind blowing in from the
Atlantic?
Do I mean an easterly or westerly?
Atlantic?
No, I mean a westerly wind. I mean a westerly wind. I do mean a westerly wind. I mean a westerly wind. Do I mean an easterly wind?
You mean an
What is an easterly? I mean wind. I mean wind that is coming from the.
Yeah. Let's get to the detail.
Okay.
That's fine.
It says in my brief it's a westerly wind.
Yeah. Let's not worry about the wind.
No. Well, no, we have to worry.
Yeah.
If you, I mean, much as I'd like to not to worry about the wind, Darren, I'm afraid 75% of the PM10 exceedances are carried on. Now, whether you just define the wind as moving easterly or westerly depends on your point of view. But it is moving from east to west.
Yep.
Over the European landmass.
Let's talk about the PM10s under your control.
And it is carrying emissions, PM10 pollutants, from power generation, from large combustion sources, and from agriculture, and that is accounting for
Let's talk about those PM10s which you can control.
Yeah. Okay.
And you've mentioned some of the measures, but electric vehicles, you've downgraded that 25,000 charging points target. You've dropped that. The age limit on taxis, reducing them to 10 years. That's one of the measures that's been dropped in your final strategy. With the 2012 target for hybrid buses is no longer a solid commitment. We're constantly seeing backtracking on this rather than solid steps forward.
No, and I think the decision of the Commission to lift the threat of the fine, to lift the imposition of the fine, shows the progress that we are making. And actually, what absolutely nonsense. You sat here, if I may say so, in this place, and I don't wish in any way to be personal about this with any member here, but frankly, we are this is the first administration to bring in any kind of age limit for taxis at all. Is it not? Is it not? And we have brought in. We are bringing in an age limit for London taxis, and a difficult thing to do, because these are a major investment for entrepreneurs, people who run their own businesses in London. We've brought in an age limit for taxis for the first time. Never happened when you were here. And I take it from what you say about buses, that you therefore support what we're doing with the new bus for London. I look forward to your support on that, because it will be 15% less fuel emitting, less CO2 emitting, less pollution emitting than a current hybrid bus, and 40% less than a current diesel bus. And that's an important new technological development. We are using technology, and we're not backing off from it. We're using technology to tackle emissions, and we're also, of course, using the short-term measures that I think the Commission understands and approves.
Well, I constantly battle with the previous mayor as well on this, and I thought the progress of the previous administration was far too slow. We constantly battled away on this, but we've seen numerous backward steps from your mayoralty, which are actually making the situation more difficult to achieve the targets rather than easier. I just do not think you've understood the seriousness of this problem, and I do think we are looking at a £300 million fine because of your failure to act decisively on this.
Can I just say, I think that you're facing the reality of seeing what. I'm not going to accuse you of wanting the £300 million fine to be imposed, because
I want the problem to be solved.
I don't believe you would be so
we don't have
perverse.
to pay it.
I don't believe you would be so perverse, and I don't believe you would want to see London taxpayers obliged to pay £300 million.
I want the problem to be solved.
But I think you will be you will perhaps to pay tribute to Isabel Dedring and everybody in the environment team at the GLA, who has worked very hard to produce a very credible and groundbreaking strategy for reducing emissions, PM10s and other pollutants of a kind that never took place under the previous administration. And quite frankly, we have had to deal in London with the consequences of inertia under the Labour government and inertia under the previous mayor. And we are now actually cleaning up the air in a way that never took place before.